Today on the Bandrew Says podcast, we will not be discussing anything from the news. I will only be responding to your comments and answering your questions because the news is kind of like a big stinky poopy butthole and nobody wants to look at it. Oh my God. I don't think I can make a comeback from that. I ought to apologize, but I am not going to. I am not going to apologize for that introduction. As I said, we are not going to be talking about any news this week. We are jumping right to what she had to say. And the first comment that we have comes from Rhea, and she says, one thing that came up in the drone community, what if someone shoots drone video under the recreational drone pilot exception, uploads it to YouTube, then Google puts ads on them, making money? You're not allowed to fly a drone for commercial purposes unless you have an FCC Part 107 certificate. Essentially, there is now a law being broken. This is a theoretical that can happen. How does Google deal with this? Rhea, thank you very much for the comment. You raise a very interesting point, and I am in no place to say how Google is going to approach this or handle this. My guess is that the drone pilot is not going to be compensated for those ads, assuming they are not in YPP. Therefore, they may not be classified as a commercial pilot. That would be my guess. However, I don't know if that would be the case. I don't know if money is ever made on the footage, if that automatically makes the pilot a commercial pilot or not. I would assume it would have to be that the pilot is the one who is being compensated for their work for them to be considered a commercial pilot, but I could be completely wrong. Now, if the drone pilot is a part of the YouTube partner program and they are flying as a recreational pilot using that exception, and then they knowingly and intentionally place ads on their video to earn revenue, then I think they may run into issues. But if a drone pilot is just uploading to YouTube and YouTube places ads, I doubt that that pilot would run into any issues with the FCC. The reason I am making that assumption, and we all know the saying about assumptions, they make an ass out of you and me. When you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. I think that's how it goes because it spells assume. You get it. But I believe that drone pilots don't just upload to YouTube. They likely also upload to Facebook and Instagram, and both of those platforms are monetized. Both of those platforms run ads in their timelines next to videos everywhere. So if a drone pilot has a video on Facebook and Instagram, and Facebook is profiting and advertising next to that video, wouldn't Facebook end up leading to that same situation where a recreational pilot is then becoming a commercial pilot because a company that is hosting their videos is making money off of it? I feel like that would be the exact same situation, but I have not seen any kind of stories come out, and I feel like I would have seen these stories if it read, Facebook places ad next to drone pilot being fined because they are breaking FAA regulations. I haven't seen anything like this, so I highly doubt that would occur, but let me remind you, I am not a lawyer, I don't work for the FAA, I don't know all of the regulations, all the ins and outs and the intricacies. I am not a part of that world, like Aladdin. I love that song. That's such a good song. Regardless, I think that drone pilots will be fine as long as they are not knowingly advertising on their videos and that they are not making money off of their videos. And if they are making money off of their videos, off of their drone footage, then they likely would have to apply to be a commercial pilot. That's my uneducated take on it. Hopefully that provided some insight. Great question. And if anybody who listens to this does work for the FAA, let me know what your take on this is. Do you think that the FAA or FCC will fine the drone pilot who is a recreational exemption user because Google and Facebook and Instagram place ads that earn money off of the distribution of that video? Or will the drone pilot be fine because they are not actually being compensated for the work for the video that they are shooting with their recreational drone license? Let me know in the comments down below. Really appreciate the comment, Rhea. Great question. Next, we have a comment from Not Greg, and they say, Double dipping real quick, I think that you bring up a really good point. I feel like, especially with the rise of Let's Players, a lot of people are coming to YouTube to upload to try to become famous and become rich off of their content. I feel like when I say I wish people would go back to how it was, I don't really think about the site itself, but rather the personalities. I miss people creating comedy skits, inventive stories, and just the general optimism this site's creators used to have. Not Greg, great comment, great point. Even though we disagree on mostly everything, I agree with you on this point. However, I do kind of disagree that prior to the explosion of Let's Players and people just trying to make money and become famous on YouTube, I still wouldn't classify YouTube's content as generally positive. I don't, or what are the words that you said? Optimism. I would not classify YouTube's content as ever being optimistic. I don't think I would grant it that classification. I don't think that is the case. However, I do kind of miss the time on YouTube where it was more passion-driven, as I said last week, where people would start channels talking about coffee because they want to talk about coffee. They enjoy drinking coffee, and they make a channel sharing their passion about coffee and sharing education and information about coffee because they want to. They feel like if they don't share it with the world, they will explode. As opposed to, I'm going to start a coffee channel because I kind of like it, but also I've seen somebody make millions of dollars, so I'm going to try to make millions of dollars off this thing that I'm not really into, but I might be into if I can make a bunch of money off of it. I don't like that. But that's what happens whenever an opportunity arises and there's a possibility of somebody becoming rich, becoming famous, and gaining power. People are gonna flock to it like there's no tomorrow, and we have seen that with YouTube. We've seen that with TikTok. We've seen it with every social media platform. It really is somewhat concerning to me, the desire that people have for fame. I don't understand the motivation behind it. I don't understand the desire for it. It seems like nothing but a problem, like nothing but an issue. Being famous would be the worst thing ever. You can't go out to get something to eat without somebody noticing you. You have millions of people putting these expectations on you about what you ought to be. That seems terrible. I have zero understanding why anybody would want to be famous. I understand wanting to upload content because you're passionate about it, and yes, you may gain a small following of people who are like-minded and share the same interest, and that's the dream. That's the dream. In my city, there may be 2 or 3 people who are as into microphones and audio as me, but around the world, apparently there's 200,000 or so. And that just, it brightens my day up, knowing that if I want to talk about audio, there's a bunch of people that I can interact with. And then I have a Discord server where I can talk to a bunch of people about audio gear, or watches, or movies, or food, or whatever the hell we want to talk about. That's the dream. The goal, I don't understand the goal of, I want to be so famous that I can't leave my home. No, thank you. No, thank you. PewDiePie, keep your position. Jacksepticeye, keep your position. That seems like a nightmare. I just want to sit in my corner and be left alone and talk to people about weird stuff. Greg, I agree. I miss the passion-driven stuff. And the thing that is kind of, I was going to end it, but I think there's something that is kind of good about the internet. A lot of creators think that audiences are stupid, I guess. Audiences can see right through your crap. If you're talking about something because you think it's gonna get you rich or famous, they're gonna see right through you unless you're a crazy sociopath that's the best actor in the world. They're gonna see right through it and say, screw this person, I want nothing to do with them. That's one great thing about the internet and people in general. They're good at sniffing out BS and shutting it down. But there you go, Greg. Appreciate the comment. Next, we have a comment from Hassan, and he says, Twitter was so much fun in the first few years. As soon as mainstream media journos joined it, it was ruined. Hassan, thank you very much for the comment, and I do kind of agree with you. At least in the department of Twitter has become terrible. Twitter it's gotten to a point where leaving your bubble, it becomes a toxic nightmare. It is unfun to be on, and I don't really enjoy it. I will follow accounts that I enjoy, and that's pretty much all I'll do. As I've mentioned in previous episodes, I've changed my location to Japan. That way I cannot read what is trending in the world because I don't care. Because I can tell you what the headlines are. Oh, Trump is a Nazi. Biden pet a dog. Oh my God, the world's going to war. I don't care. I don't care. Shut up. I don't care about your opinionated bullcrap ideas, Twitter. Shut your damn mouths. I don't care what you have to say. You're a massive multinational corporation. You don't matter. You don't matter. Your opinions are stupid. So that's what I have done. And I don't know if it was the joining of journalists that ruined Twitter. I've been on since I think 2007. My first account was for my band, and I loved the ability to embed all of the Twitter accounts onto our MySpace page. That was a big thing. You had the sidebar in your MySpace. We would have all the members' Twitter accounts, and we would post completely mundane, uninteresting stuff. I like pizza. Oh, I don't like being in big crowds. Oh boy, we're stuck in a van for 12 hours again. This is so much fun. Nobody cares. Yet that was what made Twitter interesting and fun. How uninteresting and unfun and mundane it was. It opened up this whole new world, I guess. I think I just said a whole new world in a previous response. But I do think that it was, you would only share interesting tidbits with those that you spoke to. But now you have the ability to share every single thing that comes to your mind, every single thing that you experience. And that was a new medium. That was a new thing. Nobody thought that you should be doing that in the past. And guess what? They were right. But for a short period of time, it was socially acceptable and somewhat fun. But as the verification badge system rolled out, and people started to get big heads because they had X number of followers on Twitter and they had the verification badge, they started to get jobs and positions and acting roles because of their followers. It became a really hierarchical place where it seems like people would think, we're the haves, they're the have-nots, we're verified. Look at those scum down there. Down at the bottom, the little bottom dwellers, the unverified scum. Maybe they don't think that, but that's how I interpret how they think. Or maybe I'm just thinking, once I get verified, that's how I will view people, unverified scum. I don't know. That's my take. Yeah, Twitter isn't really that much fun. I don't know. Let's jump to the next comment because I don't know where else to go with that. I appreciate your comment, Hassan, and I agree. Twitter has no longer a fun place to be. Is no longer a fun place to be. The next comment comes from Smash TV. They say, $10,000 in equipment just between the mic, arm, interface, and headphones. Meanwhile, my setup is $450 total for all of those things. Big difference in perceivable quality? Perhaps, but for a YouTube video, probably not that noticeable to the average viewer. I know you use the equipment for other stuff, and some may be on loan to you, but damn, that's a pricey setup. Smash TV, thank you very much for pointing that out and giving me the opportunity to flex on all of the haters. Yes, it is a $10,000 setup. It's stupid. It is a stupid, stupid setup. I make it abundantly clear. Go to, bandrewscott.com/gear. The first thing that I say is, you don't need this gear. Get a $50 webcam and a $50 microphone. This is a stupid setup for what I'm doing. For making a podcast that a few thousand people listen to a week, that is stupid. A U67 through an OC White boom arm into a Universal Audio X8 into an iMac with Neumann KH80s. I could be making the exact same content with $100 worth of gear. And guess what? As you mentioned, it would be imperceivably different to the majority of the people listening and watching. Nobody would care. Nobody would give a damn about the difference. And on that note, I even mentioned that in my When Should You Upgrade Your Gear video. If I'm not mistaken, I believe I point out that once you get to a certain point, nobody's going to notice a difference. You're upgrading for yourself. For dynamic mics, once you hit $100, SM58, SEV7, E835, you're pretty good for a podcast, for a YouTube video. Once you go above that, nobody's going to notice and nobody is going to care. You really are upgrading for yourself because you want to be more confident in the content that you're creating. But you're right. This is a stupid setup. It's unnecessary. Unfortunately, it's not on loan. This is all bought with my own money, and that's stupid of me as well. But I buy it to review it, and to review it, I must use it. Therefore, I am using it. And to justify a purchase of the U67, I need to use it as much as possible. So you better believe I will be using this microphone for the next 75 years on this podcast. That's right. Y'all ain't getting rid of me until I am dead. 75. Oh, that would be amazing if I lived another 75 years. Yeah, right. The amount of pizza, I'm gone in 5. All right. Next comment comes from Duje. I apologize for mispronouncing that. They say, Bandrew, please start buying bottled water again. Thanks. And another comment from Amazing, Wacky, Funny, Scary Videos. Never drink tap water unless you have no other water. It's filled with chemicals like fluoride and chlorine that kills harmful bacteria but can cause cancer in the long run. If you are getting tap water to drink, use a filter like MultiPure, the highest quality filters in the world. You can drink water from a canal if you use MultiPure. Alrighty, if y'all don't get the context of those two comments, if you didn't stick around to the close of last week's video, I took a sip of my water and it tasted like chemicals because I can't tell you too much about the water in my locale. I would dox myself. But it's not the safest water to drink. And apparently, we just had an embedded ad for MultiPure water purifiers, which I don't endorse. I don't endorse and I do not support. Guess what, Alex Jones? Give me a call. I will happily push your water filters. I will happily do it. Alex Jones, give me a call. Let's talk about it. I'll even mention pulling the atrazine out of the water that's turning the frogs, whatever. Hermaphroditic, I think it was. So go ahead. I got bottled water and I literally forgot how good water could actually taste because it doesn't taste like it's killing me. It's amazing how good it tastes. And I've been chugging it. I've been chugging that water because it actually tastes good. With all of this weird crap being done, let's jump to my favorite part of the show, the Ask Bandrew segment. Welcome back to the Ask Bandrew segment of the Bandrew Says podcast on the Geeks Rising Podcast Network. If you want to send in any questions, you can go to askbandrew.com. There are instructions on how to send in audio, video, and text-based questions. I do prefer audio and video because then I don't have to read because I am a stupid, stupid idiot person. First submission comes from Harold. They say, Hey Bandrew, in a previous episode, you mentioned that you will not support those stores with self-checkout. How do you feel about it during COVID-19? Gracias, Harold. Harold, thank you very much for the email. What a great, great question, and I am going to shock every single person here. I still absolutely hate self-checkouts. I don't like the idea of going into a store, picking out all the stuff that I want, going up to checkout, and then the company essentially saying, Hey, Bandrew, you're going to work for us now. You are now hired as a bag boy for the next 5 minutes, and you will not be compensated for that. That leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Kind of like the water I was drinking last week. I want there to be somebody working there who does that job, and I want them to be compensated for that. And I want to patronize them. I want to use their services to ensure that they are going to have a job tomorrow if they want to keep that job. Especially in a time right now where jobs seem to be dropping like flies left and right. Everybody's losing their job. Unemployment's super high. I think it's important to try to patronize the services that are done by humans to ensure that people are able to continue to feed their family, which has been a serious issue. There have been massive food lines at food banks because people don't have money to buy food for their families, and that is absolutely terrible. It's terrible that that is happening. So if somebody is working, I'm going to go directly to them as opposed to go to a self-checkout because I want to make sure the company views that person's position as important and valuable so they still have a job tomorrow. And if that person still wants to keep that job, they get to keep that job. That's my stance on it. Hopefully that answered it. I'll wear my mask. Just here's the stuff. Hey, hopefully you have a job tomorrow. Hopefully you can feed your family. Next, we have a voice submission from Chaz. It's Chaz. Sorry. I don't know why I put it that way. Take it away, Chaz.
Hey, Bandrew. It's Chaz. I have a serious question for you this time around. As a fellow Mac user, content creator, and home recording artist, what are your thoughts on these new ARM Macs that are on the horizon? I can see the benefits of having better performance and thermals from Apple's new processor chips and even the option to use iOS applications on a desktop or laptop, but I can't help but dread this change because the system requirements for a lot of Mac-compatible third-party apps, plugins, audio interfaces, MIDI controllers, and so on seemingly rely on Intel CPUs to function. I know we still have a 2-year transition period to help prepare, but do you think that's enough time? What do you think this means for current Mac users like us, and what do you suggest? I'm looking to upgrade to the newly released iMac 2020, and even though some claim it'll be obsolete soon, I think it'll be a long while before Intel CPUs completely fade in the past and ARM is compatible with the assets I rely on. Anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts on all this. Thanks for hearing me out, and I apologize if this question is a little too long and complicated for comfort. I appreciate it, dude. Take care.
Chaz, thank you very much for the voice submission. First off, I appreciate you. I appreciate ya. I have not been saying that very much, have I? I apologize for failing you so tremendously. I have let you down greatly. I apologize for that. And secondly, you sound wonderful as always. To answer the question, thoughts on ARM Macs? I will say, turns out if I just wait a couple of months, you don't need my thoughts because they're out now. They're out, they're available, and they seem to be pretty good. For the most part, they seem to be pretty good. But I will not be buying one. I will not be upgrading to them. And I don't think you should be upgrading to them in most cases. First thing I want to say about them is I find them really exciting, and I do want to upgrade to them, but I won't do it for multiple years. The main thing that is appealing to them, about them to me, is the improved thermals. I love the idea of having a fanless or silent iMac because I was considering spending $10,000 on a Mac Pro simply so I could have a silent Mac. Because I have been plagued by fan noise for years at this point. And I know that sounds stupid. Oh my God, why would you spend 10 grand on a computer so you don't have fan noise in the background? Look at my audio setup. Look at how much money I have spent on audio. I have spent tens of thousands of dollars buying microphones, testing out microphones, getting audio treatment, getting the right gear that I think is going to sound the best. Why would I not spend money to fix an issue that is so stupid as computer fan noise? I absolutely would spend that kind of money. I haven't done it because I can't bring myself to do it, but if there is a fanless or a silent iMac, 100% I am on board with that. But once everything, all the kinks are ironed out. I know I don't have to tell this to you, but as audio folks, we can't upgrade many times for a year once software is updated because our software, the developers, don't seem to be very quick on the turnaround. We'll have to wait. I don't have the new OS for Mac yet because UA, I don't think they've upgraded their drivers or the console software. I know you use Apogee. I'm not sure if they've upgraded their stuff yet or updated their stuff to be compatible with the new Mac OS. We don't upgrade. We don't upgrade to the new OS immediately. We don't upgrade to a new chipset immediately. We wait years until everybody else, they jump into the fire pit and figure out what all the issues are. Because if you're relying on this for your job, you can't have a computer not function for 6 months. That's 6 months of work that you cannot do. So on that note, should you upgrade? Probably not. Do not upgrade. Go with the Intel because you know that works. Don't go with the ARM, mainly if that's going to be your main computer. If you're still going to have your current computer as your production computer and you want another computer to play around with, go for it. But if you're buying it to replace your current computer and the ARM Mac would be your only computer, do not do it. Unreliable, to say the least. I know Painfully Honest Tech did a video where he was trashing the M1 Macs because they did not have compatibility with UA and a lot of audio software that he used. So I don't think you should. I want one. I'm not going to upgrade until my computers die, and hopefully that's in a couple of years, once all the kinks are worked out. Thank you very much for the excellent question, Chaz. I appreciate ya. Keep up the amazing work. Next, we have an audio submission from Karen. I'm sorry. Take it away, Karen.
Hi, Bandrew. It's Karen. First of all, I want to say that I really enjoy the podcast. And I also want to say that I recorded this question about 1 million times before this specific recording. And that's basically what my question is about. And that is editing, over-editing, and spontaneity. So you did talk about this a little bit in a previous podcast episode, but I would really love to hear more about how can we get to a point where we can just record something in real time without having to rehearse 10 times before that or without reading a script. So I teach Skillshare classes about doodling and art and stuff like that. And I also have a YouTube channel that I haven't posted to in a long time. And part of my problem is that I scrap my work. So basically I record something, I scrap it, record, scrap. And when I do create a final product, like a lesson in the class, it's often very scripted. So on one hand, that's good because everything is clarified. I didn't misspeak or anything, and I didn't ramble on as I am doing in this question. But on the other hand, it's a lot more work, and also it's a lot more stiff. So I don't come out as myself. I come out more as a narrator that's reading a script. And especially for my YouTube videos, because I don't want to put that much work into them as much as I put into a Skillshare class, I want it to just be fun. I want to just create and not have it be so much work. So am I deluding myself that it's possible to reach that point, to just be spontaneous and have the video still interesting and not too long and rambly and drawn out? So that's basically my question. I didn't edit this question too much because I wanted to show you how rambly I am, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this topic.
Thank you very, very much for the amazing audio submission. If anybody is interested in Karen's work, you can find it at Art on the Fridge. You can search that on Instagram, and she posts all this amazing art that she's done. First thing I want to point out, I don't think that was a rambly submission at all. I want to put your mind at ease there. You may think that that was rambly because you already know everything that you were sharing with us. But for me, for anybody listening to that, that was not rambly because you're providing context about where you're coming from, what your experiences are, what you have encountered on your journey creating content. That is not rambly. That is providing context, and that is really useful in answering the questions that you have. So don't think that you submitted a rambly submission. That is not the case. And then you ask, how do you get to the point where you can record something in real time without having to rehearse beforehand? Normally, I would say create an outline so you know exactly what you want to talk about and in what order you want to discuss it, and all the information that you want to share to convey the ideas that you're trying to convey. That's the first thing that I would suggest, because a lot of podcasters do not do that. A lot of YouTubers do not do that, but it sounds like you are already doing that, so you're already on the right path. Because of that, I'm going to share a tip or trick with you that I picked up a couple of years ago, and it has helped me tremendously. When I say this, you're going to think that's so obvious. Why don't I do that already? It's practice recording. Practice recording. Over the last 3 years, I've probably made 300 to 500 audio and video diaries, for lack of a better word. What I would do is I carry a notebook with me every day, and I carry a pen. I'll write down stuff that pops into my head. Then later in the day or the next week, I'll rant about those things and listen back to them sometimes. I used to listen back and watch back all of those recordings a lot more. Now, not so much. Now I just view it as practice on a mic, because speaking on a microphone is not normal. It is not natural. This is not something that we're born to do. It's not something that we come out of the womb with the ability to do. It's an acquired skill. And that's what I view all of those podcasts, all those diaries that I make as. It's practice. Initially, I started these audio diaries because I had a lot of crutch words, mainly so. I would say so much. And it was obnoxious to listen to. At least once I noticed that I did that, I found it obnoxious. Every single time I heard it, it was like nails on a chalkboard. And by doing the audio diary, it was cramming down years of practice into a couple of months. Because if I was only recording for my podcast, that's once a week. That's 52 recordings per year. But if I do a recording every single day, I can have 300 recordings in a year. That's 5-6 years of practice within 1 year. You can get a lot of improvement over 6 years of practice. That's how I viewed it. And to be clear, I don't release any of this stuff. This is all stored locally on an air-gapped computer, because I am sure that if any of this crap got out, people would think I was an insane person. What is he talking about today? He thinks the sky isn't really blue? What? He's a crazy person. Does he really think that the sky's not blue because he's colorblind? I don't know. Is my blue the same as other people's blue? He's a maniac. Cancel this person. So I don't think I've actually gone on a rant about that yet, but it's only a matter of time before I go on a rant about that. I'm so sorry. That's the main thing that I would suggest. Practice recording, because recording is not normal. It's not natural. It's something that is a skill that we acquire. And you're not going to acquire it or get better at it if you only record when you're recording a video or a podcast that you're publishing. Put in the practice in between those official recordings and podcasts. Then you say you record, scrap your videos until you think it's good enough to publish. And I understand this mentality because I hold a similar mentality, and I have advocated for an approach to video making that would contribute to this mentality. My approach to video making, which I still hold to this day, is you should make every video as good as you can, because that may be somebody's first impression of you. To provide a little bit of context, in the past, I've made videos for the Podcastage channel. While I was recording, I was thinking, wow, this video really sucks. I am off my game today. This is a bad video. And then while I'm editing it, I know that that's the case, and I will finish editing it. And there have been times where I've published a video, realized I knew that was bad, it is bad, and I have taken the video down. I think I did that once, actually. Then I re-recorded it the next day, and now that video is one of my most popular videos. That was the best USB microphone under $100, I think. And that's because I knew the video was bad, but I published it anyways. Now, I do think that you ought to be doing that. I think you ought to be making the video as good as you possibly can, because that may be somebody's first impression, but not to the level of limiting output, not to the level where you just don't put anything out. What I mean by that is I have abandoned that approach on all of my other channels, all of my other projects, except for the Podcastage channel, because I feel I have a responsibility on the Podcastage channel to ensure that I get as much correct as I possibly can and I don't mislead people. But with this podcast, I don't go down that approach. There are weeks where I think the show sucks. There are weeks where I know the show is bad. I still put it out. I still have fun with it. But there are also weeks where I just say, I am not feeling it. I'm not going to record because I don't want to put out something that I think sucks. I do all of that stuff. To overcome this, though, I have another channel, Bandrew Plays, where I didn't put anything out for a long time. I had written and recorded a bunch of music and never put it out because I never thought it was good enough. I never thought, I'm not going to be able to play it well enough. I'm not going to be able to make a video that does it justice. I'm not going to be able to do this. This year, I forced myself to write and record or record covers and arrange and all of that stuff for as many songs as I could every single week. By taking that approach, it forced me to publish videos. It didn't give me the luxury of sitting there and fine-tuning and nitpicking everything over and over and over again. It forced me to record the damn video, edit it, publish it. You don't have the luxury to get it perfect. Deal with it. And it was a lot of I've fallen off. I haven't done a video in a long time, but it was a lot of fun to do, and it got me out of that mindset. Will I get comments saying, Bandrew, you suck at singing. Your arrangement's dog crap. You're terrible at everything you do. Sure, I will. Who cares? At least I did it. At least I did something. The people who are leaving mean comments saying, the video's not perfect, man. Oh, this other person did it better. Yeah, they're professionals. I'm doing it for fun. I don't care. I don't care what you think, you scum. You douchebag. You douchebag. Piss off. I don't know what accent that was. So you don't always have to have a perfect video. You can get good enough and publish it. It depends on what you believe your responsibility is and what your approach is or what your motivation is. Is it to be fun? It sounds like that's what you want to do. So you can get to a point where you decide, I'm going to publish it. It's not perfect. I don't cover every tiny thing. This isn't a master class. If I get a question about this, I'll make a video about it. And then at some point, you'll have this back catalog of really useful videos that when people find, they will look at your channel as amazing. They will see you get better from video to video. On that note, you shouldn't think, I made a video, it was bad. Next video has to be perfect. Get that idea out of your head. Get that idea out of your head. Once you make a video, go rewatch it, think, the audio was a little bit quiet. I'm going to fix that. Next video, fix the audio. The audio is a good level this time. The white balance was a little bit off. I'm going to fix that next video. Problem solved. This video I said so too many times. Next video, I'm going to try to say so fewer times. Fix small things from video to video. Make iterative improvements upon your videos as opposed to huge leaps forward. It won't be noticeable to you from video to video, but watching from one year to another, you'll be amazed at the improvements that you make when you make these small, minor improvements from video to video. I think that's the best approach to improving, and within a year or two, you'll be 10 times better than you were when you initially started. And lastly, you ask, are you deluding yourself thinking that you can get to that point where you sit down, record for an hour, and it's a perfect podcast? Yes and no. I know that's harsh to say, yes and no, but I'm going to say it. The reason I'm saying yes, I think it is somewhat delusional to think that someone can jump on a mic or a camera and make a perfect video or podcast in the first take. That doesn't happen. In one take, nobody makes anything perfect ever. I think the reason you may think people do this is because you are far less critical of others as you are to yourself. You may listen to a podcast and think, wow, that's amazing. They were perfect the entire time. But that podcaster may listen to that and think, I suck. I suck at everything I do. That was a terrible episode. I think as opposed to thinking other people are able to do this and make a perfect podcast, you need to apply the same standards that you apply to them to yourself. I know in the past I have restarted recording 50 times for this podcast. This was years ago because I kept screwing up and I wanted to have a perfect one take all the way through the entire episode. And whenever I would screw up, I would start over. I started to hate making this show because of that. I had to let that idea go. I had to let the idea go that I would be able to make it an hour without having any edits, without screwing up once. Are there some people who will be able to record for an hour and a half and be able to not edit the show? Yes, they've been at it for a very long time. The idea or the group that comes to mind is the No Agenda Show. They record 3 hours. There's no editing. It's live to tape. And I think, well, why can't I do that? Why can't I do that? They're professionals. Adam Curry has been on the radio since the 80s or 90s. Of course he's going to be better at this than me. Of course he's going to. John C. Dvorak's been podcasting since 2005 or 2006. Of course he's going to be better than me. Of course he is. I should not hold myself to those same standards. And if you listen to their show, they say, yeah. They have filler words. I try not to have filler words. They have filler words. That's fine. I also really don't like their processing. I think their processing is bad. But to each their own. And I think that's important. I think it's important to remember and judge yourself in context with everybody else. Don't necessarily compare yourself to others, but if you're judging a show based on some more lenient standards and then you look at yourself and hold yourself to standards that are 10 times higher, don't do that. Then as far as why I don't think it's delusional, I absolutely think you can sit down, that you can get to a point where you sit down, record for an hour, spend 5 minutes editing, chopping off a false start and a false ending, and go. I absolutely think that is a skill that you can get to. It just takes time to develop. And if you're not putting out videos and iterating upon your process and improving and practicing, I don't think you will get to that point. So I think you ought to, let me just summarize my tips, I guess, because I think that'll be a good way to end the response. Create an outline so you know exactly what you're trying to convey. I believe you already do that. Practice recording with audio or video diaries so you get more comfortable being spontaneous on mic. With those audio and video diaries, do not write out everything you want to talk about. Write out bullet points. I want to talk about why I think my blue is not the same as other people's blue. And then rant on that, riff on it for as long as you want, as long as you can. Be okay with your content being imperfect because it will always be imperfect. You will never make perfect content. None of us will ever make perfect content. I should edit that out. I'm not going to prove a point. My content is far from perfect. About as far from perfect as it can get. Next, improve one thing in your content on every iteration of it. If you have one issue in a video, improve it. Next video, it will be fixed. Find something in the next video, fix that. Next video, fix that, so on and so forth. And lastly, be more forgiving of yourself and your mistakes and less than stellar content, because we all have put out less than stellar content. We will all continue to put it out. Not every single one of our podcasts is going to be the best, because then there wouldn't be no such thing as the best. I hope that helped, Karen. I know I probably went on far too long. I just think that is a great question, and I wanted to share my thought processes on all of these points because I think they are important to discuss. Best of luck on your podcast, on your YouTube videos, and keep making the awesome work. Best of luck to you. And remember, her URL or her Instagram is Art on the Fridge if you want to check that out. Lastly, we have an email from Sound Speeds. I'm going to get the cops called on me for screaming so early. Alan, he says, ever tested one of these? Oh, I should say, the subject of this is shortest question ever. Ever tested one of these? And he posted a picture. Let me describe this picture to you. It is a gentleman holding a Shure Beta 80 78A. No, sure, Beta 58A. That's what it is. And the bottom of the microphone has an XLR cable plugged into it. Pretty normal. That cable then goes over a cable, runs right around into a power plug. I have not tested one of these, Alan. I highly recommend that you test one out, Alan. I have not tested one out. I want to know what would happen if you did plug that in. I can't imagine that would be a good thing. There could not be a good outcome. There's no possible way that the outcome to plugging that in would be a positive influence on your life or the world as a whole. The creation of a cable like that is an abomination. It tells me that the world is a worse place than I thought it could be. Alan, you have made me lose faith in humanity just a little bit more. And I really am unhappy with you for that, because I needed that little bit of hope that I had left. And you have taken it away from me, sir. You have taken it away from me. Why would you do that? Alan, you son of a gun. You son of a gun. Well, that's going to do it for today. I appreciate you all for coming by, hanging out. You are an amazing human being. I will say this. Hey, if you're still here, go to watchcastage.com. That's a secret. It's a secret. I started a new channel. On the note of Karen, she was saying, I don't think my content is perfect. I don't think my content is perfect at all. I think my content is terrible. And I am forcing myself to put it out. I was going to wait for about 10 things to come to fruition before making the channel live and publishing a video about watches. And then I said, screw it. I'm going to do it right now. Just dive in head first. You're not going to get better unless you start making the content and getting feedback. Why would I have 5 videos in the pipe where I end saying, tell me what you think I should do to get better, and to not have the videos live for people to tell me how to improve upon the next video? So I put the video out, I started the channel, and I still need to get the actual final artwork. I don't have that yet, but watchcastage.com. Go out there and make some content. Go out there, make it, have fun. Practice, do whatever you want. And I love you. You're amazing. I appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you have an amazing Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Next Sunday, I will talk at you. I appreciate you. Bye-bye.
This has been a Geeks Rising production. Your executive producer is Bandrew Scott. For more information, head over to www.geeksrising.com.